Jessie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Let me start by associating myself with your remarks just now from the Chair. It is plain to all members of this House that the Government Chief Whip and Deputy Chief Whip have badly misstepped here, and indeed there has been scant respect for this House more generally from the Government Whip's office. I cannot believe such a thing would have happened when the Leader of the House was himself the Chief Whip. Let me join, if I may, the Prime Minister yesterday, and I'm sure the whole House today, in remembering the dreadful events of 30 years ago in Dunblane and paying tribute to the victims and their families. On a happier note, last Monday saw the 250th anniversary of Adam Smith's immortal masterpiece, The Wealth of Nations. Members may wish, if they like, to consult works by the Shadow Leader on this topic. I doubt if any other book or any single body of thought has had more effect in improving the lives and livelihoods of people across the world in the intervening 250 years. Mr. Speaker, we celebrate the service of our armed forces and we rightly treat defence matters, wherever possible, as bound by a united focus on the national interest. But it is precisely that focus on the national interest which requires us now to acknowledge that the past 2 weeks have been a disaster for this country. Our allies in the UAE, Bahrain, across the Gulf, have criticised this country for its, quote, slow and, quote, weak response to date. The Cypriot High Commissioner and the President of Cyprus have publicly expressed their disappointment and dissatisfaction. Why? Because we have exposed their people, our people, to drone attacks as targets, placed weapon systems on their territories, made solemn undertakings over many years to them, and now failed to come to their defence in time. It did not have to be this way, Mr. Speaker, so we must ask, how can this possibly have happened? Let us review the history. It was being publicly reported by January the 15th that America was starting to build a carrier strike force around the USS Abraham Lincoln targeted at Iran. On the 26th of January, the Washington Post reported that this force had arrived in the Middle East. On the 31st of January, our own Prime Minister himself told the BBC, and I quote, "The aim is that Iran shouldn't be able to deliver nuclear weapons." And I quote again, "We support the goal and we are talking to allies about how we get to that goal." Those remarks come close to an explicit endorsement of the United States on this operation, as they were doubtless intended to. But the key point is this. All this happened 4 full weeks before the start of the attack. Last week, at this dispatch box, I highlighted the gaps and inconsistencies in the government's position between its supposedly settled legal view and the last-ditch political decision reportedly taken in Cabinet on the Friday before hostilities began. And secondly, between the Cabinet and the Prime Minister, whose original instinct was to support the USA, but who was overruled. It is now clear that there has also been a disastrous failure of political leadership. The Prime Minister and the Cabinet knew, or should have known, for a full month that the USA was mustering a vast body of forces to attack Iran, that these could not remain on high readiness indefinitely, and so an attack must surely follow. The Prime Minister himself said last week that the government had pre-deployed some weapons to the region, yet he failed to give instructions in time to the Navy to prepare HMS Dragon. He failed to notify the Cypriots, and he failed to warn our allies and other friends across the region. Now that they are engaged, our armed forces are discharging their duties with distinction. But the result of this political incompetence has been a fiasco, which brought shame and dishonour on this country. We have the disgraceful sight now of the government anonymously trashing the Chief of the Defence Staff in a desperate attempt to deflect responsibility for its own inadequacies, not just via an anonymous leak in The Spectator, repeated in The Telegraph, but by a quoted, but of course unnamed official to the Financial Times. I cannot recall that a political hatchet job of this kind has ever been performed on a commanding officer in the course of a military operation. It is deeply dishonourable and itself a further sign of failure in number 10. So I ask the leader these things: whether he would support an inquiry into these leaks and briefings, and whether he would support an investigation in due course as to how this embarrassing fiasco can have been allowed to happen and what can be done to prevent it from ever happening again.
Hear, hear. Leader.
Mr. Speaker, and can I first of all respond to your words, Mr. Speaker, previously about the events of last evening, and endorse everything that you have said about the need to respect staff. That is absolutely correct that you should say that, and I absolutely endorse your remarks. And can I assure you, Mr. Speaker, and the House, that not only has the Government heard your words, but they will be acted upon. May I also associate myself with the remarks that the Honourable Gentleman made about Dunblane. We do remember that tragedy, and I have to say on a personal level, it is one of the proudest moments in my career when I voted for a handgun ban, because that has made a difference to our communities and the safety of our communities. Mr. Speaker, the events that are unfolding in Iran are deeply concerning, and I will turn to the specific remarks of the Honourable Gentleman in a moment. But the events are deeply concerning, and our thoughts are with British citizens and our brave servicemen and women in the region. The security and safety of British citizens across the region is the Government's top priority. The first government charter flight landed on Tuesday morning, with the second landing on Wednesday. We will continue to explore all options for helping our citizens return home as swiftly and safely as possible. Drop-ins are being held for MPs with concerns, and as I said last week, Mr. Speaker, should members face issues and are not able to get the support that they need for their constituents, I invite them to speak to my office and my officials, and we will help in any way that we can. This week we've launched the Social Cohesion Action Plan, which sets out the steps the Government is taking to improve social cohesion and protect what matters. We will invest in initiatives which create opportunities for connection across backgrounds, and we will expand the Pride in Place programme, which puts more communities at the heart of decision-making in their own neighbourhoods, and we will develop new tools and powers to safeguard organisations that spread extremism, hate and threaten public safety. It's also, Mr. Speaker, I think correct to reflect on that last Sunday was COVID-19 Day of Reflection, an opportunity to come together to remember those that lost their lives and to honour the tireless work and acts of kindness shown by many during the pandemic. The Government remains committed to learning the lessons needed from the COVID inquiry to protect and prepare us for the future. And as a sign of that commitment, just last year, the Government held the largest pandemic exercise in British history. Let me turn now to the remarks of the Shadow Leader and agree with him on the first point that he made, which is that it is incumbent in this House that parties work together in times of crisis, which we are facing. And I agree that a bipartisan approach, if we can get one, is the best one. It's what we did in opposition, Mr. Speaker, even though some of those decisions were very difficult. So I am disappointed, not just in his remarks today, but I'm particularly disappointed in the leader of his party, because she simply doesn't seem to acknowledge the importance and responsibility which comes with her office. In terms of the story that he set out, we did send assets to the region, Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of the year. HMS Dragon is dispatched. As I've just said, we take the safety and security of British citizens and servicemen and women very highly indeed. On the wider issue in which he raises, I'd simply remind him that his government was the one that left our defences in a shocking state, with defence expenditure going down. We are not least in a diminished surface fleet. But our task, Mr. Speaker, is to rebuild our defences. We are committed to increasing spending to keep our servicemen and women safe. And in terms of any inquiry, we're in the midst of an international crisis. If such an inquiry was necessary in the future, I think it should wait until we ensure that our citizens and our servicemen and women are safe.